God's love? No? Are we reflecting? Or are we seeking information, not transformation? So it must be very good. It's transforming. That yes is not very much convincing, you see. It started now only. Long back it should have been starting and it should have continued long back. Certainly it has. No, it's not now. It is not something new. Okay. But then every retreat really helps us to put our focus back into the Lord and to understand why do we do what we do. Simon Sinek so beautifully when he speaks about, I was telling you of a book, Start With Why. If you ever get this book, it's nice to read. It's a very late, a contemporary writing on start with why. Anything that you do, in the morning when you get up to go and pray, before that you ask, why should I pray? Find an answer and pray, and then you see the difference. Why should I go for Mass? Is it simply because it was the time for me to go for Mass? Why should in the afternoon come and sit here? Sometimes we do it because we become part of a flock. And then as the sheep goes, the other one follows. Remember the first story we began with? The experiment of monkeys. So do not forget, till the last day, do not forget this. Why am I doing many of the things that I do? And then we said, we can't know Christ without really falling in love. It's not only in Christ. In that case, anybody, if you want to know anybody, you really need to love that person. Then only you will start knowing about this person. It's like, for example, you meet somebody, or you attend a Mass, or you attend a talk of somebody whom you do not know. Okay. If it is quite boring, you don't bother much. But if it was quite inspiring and touching you, when you come back, you ask the other persons, who was this person who spoke? No? So we want to know, we become a little more curious to know a little more better because we really were attracted by what he or she said, isn't it? So it's human relationships are always like that. Even our relation with God also is something like this. You really need to slowly know Him. The more you come to know, the more you fall in love with the persons. The more you understand this person is quite attractive and very serious. I remember years back, I had a great desire of meeting a writer. It skipped my mind his name. And he was from Albania. I have read, when as a student of theology, I have read his pilgrimage. His pilgrimage is, first he makes a pilgrimage all the way from Netherlands. He walks to Rome to show his allegiance to Pope and to the Catholic Church. Walking, as a young man, he started walking at the age of 19. He went walking. He didn't have anything with him. I will give his name later to you. And he walked, and then he went, he had his spiritual experiment there, and he went back. And then after that, after 2 years, he felt like making another journey. He started off walking all the way from there to France, Fatima, Our Lady of Fatima. He went walking all the way. And his spiritual encounter and his spiritual, nourishment he writes in the book. And thirdly, he makes a journey to Jerusalem because he wanted to show his allegiance to the place where Christ was born. Very good. So you are in the right track. So we continue. This is where we stopped today. And then we continue. The real love, according to St. John, you see, when he speaks about it, is pure, holy, and divine. St. John the Apostle and Evangelist in his first letter would say like this, chapter 4, verse 7 to 8. My dear friends, let us love one another, for love comes from God. Everyone who loves is born of God and knows God. Whoever does not love does not know God, for God is love. So, in other words, all what we have been trying to tell in the morning onwards, or all these days of our life, is same. If I fail in loving, I fail in knowing God also. It's not that I failed in loving somebody alone. And this is why, this is the reason, this is the secret why Jesus asked Peter, Peter, do you love me? Because if I fail in loving the Lord, I fail in loving one another. Or it is the other way also. If I fail in loving the other, I fail in knowing God also. So I can't have all the rest, what we consider or what we think as love, need not to be love. That's why Bible uses many words. C.S. Lewis, when he writes a book, Kinds of Love, he speaks about 4 kinds of love. And the last of that is what we are talking about, agape, a word which you find in the New Testament, in the Gospels. Agape, a love that goes beyond oneself. Ephesians chapter 4, 15 and 16 says, with all humility and gentleness, with patience, bearing with one another in love. Look at that characteristics of that love. With all gentleness, with all humility, with patience, bearing with one another. That's where we sometimes fail. To bear with one another, we find sometimes quite difficult. Paul has a sure hope. With sincere love, we shall grow in every way towards Christ, who is the head. So the body builds itself in love. Again, Ephesians 4, 15 and 16. John 13, 34 to 45, 1 or 2 of these you can take it for your meditations. I give you a new commandment. It is not the membership that I have in a congregation also. What makes me a true, authentic apostle or a disciple of Christ, they will know that you are a Christian, you are a disciple, you are an apostle, you are an Augustinian. It's simply by that. Nothing else. And it is quite difficult to reach into, to arrive into that state, okay? Because I always say this, love is sometimes we consider as something that you can produce. How nice it would have been that I could give her some 20. That's what the Lord said. I repeat this sentence again if you want. I give you a new commandment, that you love one another, just as I have loved you. You love as God had loved you. Was there a difference in God's love? Yesterday He loved you more and today He loved you less. Day before yesterday was more. No. His love was same, unconditional, right from the time you were in your mother's womb or much before that. His love remains the same. See, this is where I was telling you, we really need to understand what does it mean to love. For us, love can be an attraction, gratitude, infatuation, all that we call it love. Somebody did something good to me, I loved her back. Jesus himself says, okay, so you said we do love the equal, it's not possible, or it is not equally we love. What did the Lord say about it? What good if you do good to somebody who does good to you? What good if you love somebody who loves you? And then he says, love those who persecute you. Pray for those who persecute you. That's what his commandment. The Lord said like that. Now, how do we understand this and how do we do that? So I said, if we think that we can love the other person the way we want and then we fail, and then what we show is some sort of our own emotions, some sort of our own attachment, not the love that came from the Lord. The love that I receive only, I can give it to the other. If you haven't received, you can't give it to the other. Then we manipulate. Then we pretend. Then we act. Then we show which is not real true love. If anybody disagree, you can tell me. That's why I said, we are not factories that produce love, that I can give it to you. You go to the kitchen and you can make a beautiful coffee. You can make a tea. But can you make love? Create this love. No, you can't. That real love must come to you from God, and then only it can go from you to the other. I'll give you two examples. One story I'll tell you. Okay, so that you don't feel bored. There was a village, an interior village. Those who were almost going like this, suddenly he woke up. So in that village, there was a young boy. This boy was known for all his foolishness. So everyone called him a fool. But his parents always scolded him, why not you change your image? You get a very bad name here. Why don't you get a better name? Why don't you start thinking, working intelligently? So with all this, he started thinking, what shall I do to make an impression, to make a mark in my village? And then he started thinking, what is really lacking that people will keep me in a good esteem? And then suddenly he discovered every woman of the village is going with their pots for collecting water. They have to go for a long way for collecting water. Almost sometime 10 to 15 kilometers away, because there's no water. And there was a lake all dried down. Yeah, she remembers the story because long back I told her the story. Now only she remembered, you see. I thought you should have remembered long back. Okay, now, as this man decided, okay, he said, let me go and check in the other villages. How do they live? Where do they collect water from? So he walks. He goes into the next village. It's quite far. So it took him a day to reach to the next village. They had no contact. It's an interior place. So as in the evening, the next village, they had no contact. It's an interior place. So as in the evening, by the time he reached to the new village, he goes to the middle of the village there and he waits there to see how these people are collecting water, how they are managing themselves. Then he found suddenly the people were all going with their own buckets, their own pots to somewhere. So he followed them. And then in the middle of the square, there was a tree. Under the tree, there was something there which he couldn't understand. It was a pipe. He did not know what a pipe is because irrigation, he does not know what it is. In his village, it wasn't there and he never came out of his village. He does not know. And he saw everybody keeps their pots and buckets in a line and they stand patiently waiting for somebody. By the time it rang 6, someone opened the tap, water started flowing. He does not know where it comes and what it is all about. But he sees water there. He gets water from there. Everybody is collecting their water and going back. And after some time, the water stopped. We know it's like the municipality sends water or the town panchayat or wherever maybe, they have a tank and they give you water. And he thought, this is a good idea. Let me start planting this into my village also. He waited in the night. When everybody slept, he pulled out that pipe, ran to his village, went to his village, and in his village also there was a village square. There was a nice tree there. Under the tree, he planted it. And then he went early in the morning to every houses and he told them, come by 6 o'clock, I will give you water. But make sure you come in discipline. First come, first serve. They all came believing him. And it was 6 o'clock. He opened the pipe. Did the water come? Why didn't the water come? He only had a pipe, and the pipe had no connection with the tank, with the water source, in other words. What's the connection of that story and love? It is the same, my dear sisters, in our own lives. If we have no connection to this tank called Christ, love will never flow from us. We can remain as a pipe throughout our life. Others identify us as a pipe. But that pipe will not serve what it should serve. It cannot serve petrol. It cannot serve milk. It has to serve water. And that's why it's called water pipe. And that will happen only when this pipe is connected to the tank. As the Lord says, draw from me. And the moment you start connecting to this pipe, I tell you, you don't have to, you cannot stop it also. That's why I said, then your love is immeasurable. That love you cannot stop. You cannot say, no, yesterday she didn't mind me or she scolded me, I will not love her. You cannot stop that love. That love will flow from you. I'll give you one more example as we go. The genuine Christian love has two dimensions, love of God and love of the neighbor, as Deuteronomy and Matthew would remind us. Love of our neighbor, Leviticus speaks about it, Matthew speaks about, Mark speaks about, Romans you find love fulfills the whole law, finally he would speak about. When there is love, there is no law, or the law ceases to exist, as St. Paul says. When you go home, do you have a timetable at home? You don't have a timetable, no? But do you do things? Since there was no timetable, will you sleep a whole day? But if in a community, if there is no timetable, what happens? She says, sleep. I thought, no, I will get up and do my work. See, how sometime, so what makes the difference? What makes the difference? I leave it to you for answering yourself. Okay. So love of God and love of neighbor cannot be separated. Real love in us is not a mere human emotion or sentiments, as I said before. It's God's own love working in us and manifested through us. So when that love really works in me, God's love, and that's the reason why we need to plug ourselves into the tabernacles. Mother Teresa, even in every day of her life, however busy she was, she always used to say, I draw my strength from the tabernacle. You can see her. You could see in her lifetime when she would come there. We don't even know. I have seen it. We don't even make out whether she is sleeping there, whether she is sitting there, whether she is praying there. Because she was quite old, very weak, and her back has a bend, a curve, and a head down. But she sits there, and then she says, this is where I charge myself. And then the moment when she begins, you will not know where does she get this energy from. Sometimes our failure in loving others is because it doesn't begin there. If it doesn't begin there, if it begins only in my heart, it simply remains an emotion. It is never what God called as love. 1 John 4:7-21. You may use it for your personal reflection today. 1 John 4. One of the most beautiful passages that you will find what love really is first letter of St. Paul to the Corinthians, chapter 13, 4-8. Remember what is this? That will tell you what really love is. And then at the end of reading this, meditating on this, and then you say, how many people you really love like this? He begins, love is patient. There itself our love is half gone. Love is kind. We are kind anyway. It does not envy. does not boast. It is not proud. He doesn't stop there. Huh? It does not dishonor others. In a day, how many times we dishonor how many people? It is not self-seeking. It's not self-seeking. It's not easily angered. I do not get anger or angry. How many times we use this word? You make me angry. You know, this is something that we hear, especially teachers use in the schools. If you are a teacher, use you make me angry. You are telling them you are a weak person. That person can make you angry. He is in control of you, in other words. If other person could make you angry, who is in control of you? The other person is in control of you. Who is in control of you really? It keeps no record of wrongs. Do we keep records of wrongs? Right from the first day of our birth, from us, we started remembering things. Until today, we have everything we keep in our mind, don't we? Yes, we know who insulted us, who humiliated us, who really persecuted us, who sometimes punished us. I have heard people telling sometimes, Father, when I joined in the seminary in the first year, what lot of hardships I had, Father, and I still cannot forgive these persons. We hear this. We ourselves hold on to it. But then the more we hold on to it, what happens to us? The more hurtful you yourself become. That's a fact. Nothing else happens. So you are angry with me. Your anger has nothing to do with me. I go on, but then you suffer out of it. We will come back into this anger workout maybe tomorrow when it comes. So love records no records of the wrongs. You know, can you give me an example of somebody who loved without keeping any record of the wrongs? Other than Jesus, I don't know whether we have any name, isn't it? Because he did really. An example? It's a writer, but we don't know much about him. Yes, Graham Stein, okay, the one who died. But we do not know how he lived. He was a martyr at the end. Yes. At the cross. Exactly. Not only forgive them, but he also forgot the record of the wrongs done by the thief who was standing beside him. This is why, I don't know if you have heard of Cardinal Francis Van Thuan. Somebody is on the way to canonization. Have you heard of him? Cardinal Francis Van Thuan, never. He was a Vietnamese bishop. And when Vietnam was under the communist regime, and he was asked to stop bringing people into his church, or else believe in Christianity, you have no problem, but then that is run by the state. State will appoint the bishops, just like in China. The official Chinese church would say the government appoint the bishops, and the church in Vatican wouldn't agree, or the Catholic Church does not have that system. Now, we know the appointment comes from the Pope, and then it goes. So, communist countries does not want this because they always suspect these people may be working for that country. So thereby he was told by his own grandnephew, who was in authority, tells him, you have to abide by the law of our country. That is, he said no. They arrested him, put him in the jail. You know how many years he was in the jail? Long 13 years he was in the jail. Out of the 13 years, 9 years he was in a solitary confinement. A single small room. He remained without having contact with anybody in the world. And then he would later on narrate his experience of celebrating Mass. He would say, because he was not allowed to, but there were a few soldiers who knew him, who really loved him. They would smuggle and give him small particles, not one packet of bread. A particle of bread. So he would take a small piece, a small dust piece and then he would transform his hand into the chalice, and he would dip his finger into the little wine he has, and he would celebrate Mass there. 9 years he survived with this. And the world came to know much about him was in the year 2000. You know, in the year 2000, who was the Pope? Pope John Paul II, Saint John Paul II, who was a modern saint of our time. And he wanted somebody to preach a retreat for him, someone who suffered for Christ. And then Francis van Twang was spotted. He was brought to Rome to preach a retreat to Pope and the Curia. Before that, he addressed the press. And then they asked him, why do you love Christ so much? Why do you love Christ so much? That you have to even, your life has gone so much inside of a gallop, and then you still live there. Why do you love Christ so much? He said, Christ has 5 defects. Christ has? Do you believe a God with defects? I thought when I said you will be shocked. Christ having defects, humans can have defects. But he says, Christ has 5 defects, and that is why I love him. In the world of our own, in the way we look at it, it is a defect. And the first defect he said was, Christ had a very poor memory. He had a very poor memory, and that is why I love him. Our problem is we have got a very sharp memory. And that's what St. Paul speaks about. Christ, or the real love that does not record the wrongs. The moment you record a wrong, don't blame yourself for it. Don't try to get out of it. It is not so easily possible. It needs maybe a lifetime, serious, conscious work to come out of this, because they are memories are stored in your brain. And there is only one way. Either you get Alzheimer's and you forget everything, or else that cell is to be burned. And both are quite difficult. So the third simple method is to offer them before the Lord and pray with it. And then he continues, love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. Each of this, please take it today for adoration. Each of this you read, 5 minutes spend with each of this. It's not simply reading and reflecting. Look at yourself and all that you considered as love. Is it real love in the light of the passage that we read? That should be your reflections. And at the end, make a conclusion also with it. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Persevere in the sense, when we love somebody, our love does not persevere because the other person does not return that love back. And it's gone. How many relations we have now forgotten and gone back, passed into the memories because they never responded. We hear people saying also this. We do, Father, but then they don't even respond. It's difficult to love, not very easy. And then he says, love never fails, but where there are prophecies, they will cease. Where there are tongues, they will be stilled. Where there is knowledge, it will pass away. That is love never. And then further, when you read, go through, I didn't write it down there, he would say there are 3 things that would last. Faith, hope, and love. Even in that, love lasts. Why? What happened to the other 2? Love is there? Yeah, that is our general conclusion. Why does Paul say faith, hope, and love? And love lasts. Because we don't need the other 2. The moment hope and faith is needed when? Until you reach to the Lord. Once when you reach there, do you need faith anymore? Do you need hope anymore? But do you need love? You still need love. You are still loved. That's the beauty of love. That's what I'm talking about. So to love so intently, deeply as Paul did. And that's why Paul was able to do that. You see, Paul would write about his own persecutions, the struggles that he went through, the times that he was thrown out, the time finally he was killed also. Until that very moment, he never stops loving. He continued loving. Stephen did the same thing. Stephen, immediately following the Lord, he said, Lord, forgive them. Do not count this against them. And that is the love that I'm talking about. To arrive at that level, that grade of love is not very easy. But then I and you are called, our prayers are called for this, that we perfect our love every day. If my love was perfect, on the first day, I don't need anything else in my life. So do not get disappointed that your love is not perfect. Your life will be imperfect. And we are called to purify it every day. The more you come closer to the Lord, the better they sound, the better they appear, the better they appeal. And that's the purpose of it. So we continue. Letter of St. John. There he says that love cannot just be in words and talk, not even in the most loving sounding prayers. This was 2 weeks back we read this first reading. You may not be remembering. It was 2 weeks back on a Tuesday. We read this in the first reading of St. John's letter that speaks about, he would speak about this. Love, I repeat, he says, love cannot just be words and talk. Not even in the most lovely sounding prayers. They can only remain as prayers. Then what is love? Must be in deeds. Love, he says, is shown in action, in deeds. Only when we are loving indeed can we know that Jesus lives in us. You understand? So this is what in the morning we said during the Mass. The fruit of my prayer is the reflection or the love that I show to the other. You understand? I love you not because you were so good to me. I love you because God loved me. Nothing else. I received a love from the Lord, and that love will flow from me to you. Whoever you are, irrespective of what you are and who you are and how you behave. This is the kind of love a Christian is invited to love. A love in which you do not look what is the result, what is the outcome, what will happen at the end of it. It is simply because you are filled with love. You can't stop it. It will flow from you to the other. An example of electricity would be a beautiful thing to remember. You see, you have seen electricity, no? Yes? I told you this, I think. I don't remember if I said it. So, electricity, now there is a wire going here, isn't it? You open that one and touch on that. What happens to you? You get a shock. You get a shock, isn't it? It will not be very severe because it's a low voltage there. But you wear a rubber shoe and touch on that. What happens? You're scared of electricity, so we never tried. Anybody who got shock anytime? Yeah, she says she has got. Small one. Because you were wearing a slipper or you were not wearing? You were not wearing. Did you try with wearing the slipper again, touching that same live wire? Yes? No, sometimes getting a shock really will help us to understand, where am I? I'm in Bangalore. Okay, where? Augustinians. When did I join? We start, really shocking revelations start coming into us. Okay, so when you see, this is what we study in the schools also, isn't it? When you touch with a rubber shoe on or else a rubber gloves on, you don't get electric shock, isn't it? You agree this much? Now my question is, why you don't get shock? Because? Electricity and it does not pass through. Very good. Who said that? Very good. It does not pass through. So if it does not pass through, it will not enter through also. If it cannot pass through you to another element, it will not enter to you also. You understand? I repeat. If electricity cannot pass through you to the other, it will not enter into you also. Now change the word electricity into love. If love cannot pass through you to the other, will it enter into you? It will not enter into you. Take it from me. That's a simple and the best example that you can go through with this. In other words, if electricity cannot go through me, it cannot go into me. And God's love is similar. If the love He communicates to me does not pass on to others, then it does not come to me either. For me to experience God's love, others have to experience mine. I repeat, I don't know if you really follow what I'm saying. Okay. Those of you who do not follow, shake your head once and then once again repeat this. If it does not come to me, so for me to experience God's love, others have to experience mine. Yeah. See, now they started questioning. Oh, really? Read again. Read again. The previous line once again you read. If electricity cannot go through me, it cannot go into me. And God's love is similar. If the love He communicates to me does not pass from me to the other, it does not enter into me also. Then it does not come to me. Similarly, if I have to experience God's love, others have to experience God's love in me. That is what love is. Yeah, go on. Exactly. You receive it and you experience it when? You receive it, you experience it when? When others experience it from you. You understand? In other words, this is witnessing also. If not, it's not complicated. Is it complicated? I thought I will make it simplify and use the electricity and then it made all the more complications. No, it's very simple. See, if a love does not enter into me of God's love, I cannot love the other. All what I consider today what love is not necessarily love. It can be because you did something to me, I'm grateful to you. I'm grateful to the Augustinian sisters because they called me here and I'm here and you took care of me so much. Which is not love. It's my gratitude. You understand? Love should mean that I spent my time recognizing God's love that I received, I share it with you. Then it becomes love. So it is not from something from me. And then that should have all the characteristics what we said about St. Paul when he says in his letter to the Corinthians, love is patient, love is kind, love does not envy, love does not boast. All that, try to go through all of this is what I said. So real love, and this is what even your own charism speaks about it also. Okay, at the end we will conclude with that. And that is how we become good. By reflecting God's love, you become good. And I repeat, this also do not get confused with, we are good because God's love and goodness is acting in and through us. We usually put it in the other way. If I am first good, then God will love me. That's what we think. That's what we tell others also. We tell the children, what do we say? If you do good, God will love you. When we were small, this is what we were also told. That God will love you if you are good. Then what kind of love is that, God's love? Conditional love, no? He also expects me to be good, and then He loves me. Then it is not love. That's the way we consider, we think. God loves me even if I am bad. God loves me not because I am good. Father Subhash from morning onwards doing a lot of work, so let me give him some love. That's not the way God, even if I am on my bed also He loves me. Even if I don't do anything also He loves me. This is the kind of love that I know I'm talking about. But God always loves me, whether I am good or bad. When I am good, it is because I allow His love to act in me. When I am bad, it is because I have blocked His love to act in me. That's all. I repeat. You follow what I'm saying? It looks like solving a mathematical problem. Love is so simple, but how difficult it is to understand what God's love is. See? So, what does He say? See, if God's love enters into me and I act upon it, I become good. If I am bad also, God's love is in me. But I block that love there, thereby I remain bad. That does not mean that God does not love me. God loves me. God continues to love me. If He created me, God is love, because what else can He do? Can He hate? No. That's against God's nature. God cannot hate you. God can only love you. God can only show compassion and mercy to us. That's the beauty of God's love. And this must be ours also. And so, every day's our participation of these liturgical hours really helps us to grow in that love. The more you reflect on that, the more you meditate on that, the more your love becomes pure. The more they go out of selfishness. They go out of all that is self-centeredness. And that's the kind of love that we are talking about. We must abandon entirely the idea that we earn God's love by good deeds. If I do some good deeds, God will bless me. If I do something bad, God will curse me. God does not love me because I am good. I am good because God's love is working in and through me to others. That's the only way we can explain. And that's what we hear. Moved by the compassionate love of God, we respond to the signs of the time. What is that? Thank you. That's your charism. I remember some time back I was asking similar to this to a group of sisters. They said, no, Father, no idea. I said, it is in your constitution, the first page. So sometime, now have you reflected on this? You said it is yours, isn't it? Have you reflected on that beautiful word? Moved by the compassionate love. Why compassionate love? God's love is compassionate, that's why. That's an easy way of understanding. But then your own experience tells what? I was so bad a person, or I never do what God told me to do, but yet He loves me. This is what His compassion for me. So in other words, it really helps each one of us to know how weak we are, how sinful we are, how are we, yet He loves me. Sometimes the way we project ourselves as if we deserve all of His love. The real attitude must be, I do not deserve whatever I receive. I don't deserve His love. It is gratuitous, not meritorious. Because I did something, He gave me. No. It is simply freely given to me. In spite of whatever weakness I hold on into my life, He still loves me. And that is why it is moved by the compassionate love. So if God was so compassionate to me, I will also be the same compassion to the people whom I meet. They will not be same to me. They will react to me. They will reject me. They will go against me. They will slander. But still, I will love them. And that is because God loved me. So, in other words, you begin to love from your own experience. So, all these 3 days, what I've been trying to tell you is experience, experience, experience. Begin from your experience to love the other. Recognize. Some problem with us is we don't recognize love. So, simply because we got, we kind of a mental, our understanding is this, that if we are good, God loves us, people love us. People may love you because if you are good, but God does not love because you are good. Now let me ask you a simple question. Think and answer. Okay. People love you for who you are or what you do. People love you for what you do or who you are. You see, look at the wisdom. The back, many of them say who you are. Here you say what you do. That's the impression the world had created in us. People love us for what we do, not who we are. For example, when you were small, Sister Shanti, you remember when you got good marks in your papers when you went home, did they appreciate you? They did. When you got bad mark, did they depreciate you also? No? That's wonderful. But we received, we have got. I remember getting scolding for the poor mark that I have got it. Or whenever we did something good, they always encouraged us and said, very good, learn from him. But whenever we did bad, they also scolded and told us, learn from the next door boy. You are hopeless. Didn't they say? Yes. So over these years of this kind of training or these kind of insights, we have learned to adopt that whatever I do pleases others, and that makes them to love me. You get me? But the real fact is, we must be loved for who we are. But the question is, can they love the kind of person who I am? No. That we have to answer by ourselves. So in other words, love is something that I'm talking about. This love, as we said, try to reflect on. Okay. Love and knowledge, and we move on. So we were talking about love and knowing Christ. That will help me in what? Following Christ. So all what we said was, if I have to follow somebody, I really need to know who he is, and I really need to fall in love. Fall in love in such a way that I am willing to do anything for that person. That should be our commitment. For Christ's sake, Paul says so beautifully, I can give up everything for his sake. I count everything as a loss when compared to the love of Christ. Knowing Christ. That's all and look at all the apostles. They were all people who gave up their life. They died for Christ. Not only they, even in our modern times, we have many of them who really die for the love of Christ. Now, can we be part of that love? Dying for Christ. Our founder, St. Anthony Mary Zachariah, who was a medical doctor. And as a doctor, he was treating the patients. And that was the time this pandemic cholera was spread in entire Milan. And then, as he was treating, a thought came to him, what's the point of treating this human body that is perishable? What should I treat? Human soul. For that, what should I do? He said, let me become a priest. He leaves his profession and becomes a priest to treat the human souls. And after that, he lived only another 7 more years. At the age of 37, he passed away. And his biographers say he was burned to death by the love of Christ. His passion was so ardent, his desire was so much to serve and love God. He was up and down, his walking up and down, and his struggle, so serious work, or worn out himself. At the age of 37, he died. What I'm saying is, this is what real love is. Once when you get into that love, look at St. Francis Xavier who came to India. What really made him to come to India? Look at your own, maybe the first sisters who came to India when you began the mission in India. Or many other congregations that came to India. Look at the way they came. Now when we go there, they knew a language, so they could understand us. It was not very difficult as they coming to an unknown land first. Yes or no? They came to many of our interior places. They lived there without knowing language, without knowing people, without knowing the culture. All what they had was love of Christ. Simply love of Christ. And that really gave a boom to the church. The church today, what we are proud of, is a church built by them. We have built magnificent institutions, not the church. When we speak about church, it is not the buildings, it is the people of God. And what really led them to do that? Coming into some of their diaries you must read. Some of these ancient sisters, I don't know if your sisters have got some diaries. Now, I read some of this, St. Joseph of Tap sisters, their early sisters who came to India, their diaries. In those days, what they do, suppose somebody on the way falls sick and die. They are coming, imagine they are coming by a ship or a boat, not the modern ship. Pray and take the body and put it in the water. Bury in the sea. Many missionaries perished there. How many missionaries on the way to coming to China lost their lives? We had a Barnabite mission from 1710 to 1810 in Burma. No one returned. They all died there. But today, Burmese church can be proud of a proud church Burma has built on the tomb of this great men. And all what they had was love for Christ. And today sometime, each one of us need to experience this love in order to give this love to other. St. Ignatius of Antioch, a martyr. You know how he goes for his martyrdom? He was arrested during the Diocletian persecutions, and he was taken to the amphitheater only to be thrown before the wild animals. As he was going, he was singing a beautiful hymn. Which was this hymn? B9. You sing this, united in one body with Christ. If we are ground by the winepress of suffering, may we be found pure bread. That was the prayer he said. He would say, if I am chewed by these wild animals inside of its jaws, I will become all the more a pure bread for the Lord. He happily sings and goes, not for a picnic. He was going to die. And that death was a picnic for him. This is the kind of love that we are talking about. Modern time we had people like Oscar Romero, who really gave up his life, recently became a canonized a saint. So this is what real love is. So that love, when it really enters into you, you will do the most impossible things in your life. If not, we will always remain in the corners quietly, and at the end, as we read in the first reading today, Sirach, some people leave no memory behind. Do you sometime, when you sit for reflection, when you sit and pray, do you sometime think, when I am gone, how many people will think about me? How many people will remember that I brought Christ to them? How many people will say, she was the reason why I am a sister? How many of us promote vocations here? I remember a few months back I had a talk for the vocation promoters of a particular congregation. And it was initially for 2 provinces of a congregation, the vocation promoters. But then just the previous day, the provincial called me and said, Father, I thought of asking the superiors also to join for this meeting. Can they also? He said, Sister, go ahead, because it is online. So there were around 75 of them attending this talk on vocation promotion. I don't know why did they select me for vocation promotion, but then I thought it was a fitting time to talk. And then I was asking them, how many of you have promoted vocations? Some 4 or 5 of them, pencil-like sisters, stood up and said, Father, we promoted vocations. We can see them. They were walking around. Maybe they were tired. So it appears to them also. And I asked them, what about others? They said, no, Father, we never got this charge, so we did not. If we get a chance and charge, then we will do it. Now, who is a vocation promoter? Every Christian is a vocation promoter. Every Christian is a vocation promoter. No? That's what the church would tell us. That's what church would teach us. And how will you promote the vocation? That you are happy with the life, first of all. That you experience God's love and joy and compassion every day of your life. Then you don't need a provincial or you don't need a superior to tell you, sister, go and promote vocation. You will go as Andrew went to Peter. Andrew goes to Peter and says, Peter, I found the Messiah. I lived with him yesterday. You also come. The Lord does not tell him, go and call them and come. He experiences it And that experiences makes him to go to the other one and tells. Philip goes to Nathanael and tells Nathanael, I have found the Messiah. Come, follow him. This is what vocation promotion is. In other words, a life that you are content with by following Christ. You are so happy, and that happiness is so much visible in you that moved by this compassionate love, you go to the other and tell them, come share and enjoy this love that I am experiencing. Sometime what we have to do is, I see sometime so funny vocation promoters. They go there, they don't know what exactly to do. They become nervous first of all, because first time going for vocation promotion, they go there and they read the brochure what they have, and then they go and sit somewhere and drink a glass of water. What exactly vocation promotion is, you project your charism by the way you are, and then people will follow you. You don't have to worry about it. So this is what makes you follow Christ. Okay. It's almost time. In 5 minutes, we'll start with this, what I'm trying to say. So, if I love and if I know, I will follow ardently. Otherwise also I will follow. But I will not know whom I am following. It's like last time during the election, some journalists were interviewing people who participated a political gathering. And a person was called and asked, who is contesting here? He said, I don't know. He said, I don't know. Why did you come here? I came to promote. Promote whom? I don't know. Who called you? Somebody called me. I was working somewhere. He told me he will give me 500 rupees. So I came and followed. I don't know which party also, he said. Sometime following can be that also. Okay. How do I follow? We need to understand. To follow Christ, when he says, when Jesus spoke again to the people, he said, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have a light of life. So you must look into the mirror and see if I have a light of life. That is something that you need to be proud of. Each one of us must have that. We do not walk in darkness, we walk in the light, because that light comes from the Lord. My life can never be darkened with the shades of sin and Satan, because I am following a light. That's a kind of light. Then he called the crowd to him along with his disciples and said, whoever wants to be my disciple must deny himself and take up their cross and follow me. This denial, we spoke about it the other day. How do we follow him? It's a call to take up his cross. He said, take up your cross and follow me. How nice it is, no? To take up a cross and follow. Is it nice? Okay, so let's see. Can it be a thing of joy? That's a question. Obviously, we are not called to follow him in gloom and sadness. God does not call us to follow him in gloom and sadness, but he called us to follow him in joy. And this joy is what I was talking about. If we lose our joy in our religious life, it simply would mean that we have lost following him. He said to the disciples that it is necessary for the Messiah to suffer and thus enter into his glory. So if you follow him in suffering, you shall follow him in his glory also. Clear, no? So the Lord's call to follow him was not something that he offers you everyday chocolate and ice cream. His call was that he will offer you persecutions, he will offer you sufferings, he will offer you difficulties, he will offer you uncertainties. All that is what he offers. And we heard all this, no? When you joined, did you hear all this? You must tell. Whenever you select somebody, you must tell them, this is what you are going to experience. So that tomorrow, when they experience something bad, when they get a transfer which they do not like, they will not keep a big face and walk around for 3-4 days. Because I have come to follow the Lord. The Lord had told me, the more sufferings you get, the more closer you come to the Lord. And I'm willingly, because I have to deny my identity. This denial of identity is not that happens once for a lifetime. every day of my life I need to deny. Because human beings live with his own impulses. And to control them, to keep them at a bay, is not an easy thing. It requires serious prayers, serious relation built with him. John chapter 16, 1 to 2. This part you don't have to take for meditations. Today what I would prefer, that is to know and to love Christ. Okay, following, you can maybe later we will take it up. We have a number of passages. Some of these, if you wish, you can note it down for later. The prophecy is fulfilled immediately after the death of Christ. That's what I was telling you. Jesus told them, Acts chapter 5:40, they sent the apostles and had them flogged. Against Paul you find in Acts 13, 50 to 52, 2 Corinthians 1, 3 to 5, Colossians 1, 25, Galatians 2, 19. What are they all talking about? The rewards they received for following Christ. And what did they all receive? Persecutions. Yeah, all this you read. Today some of these you write down and read today, and then you see what did they receive. They received, but then so beautiful to say, Paul would every time after undergoing such sufferings, he would come out and he would write like this, there was much joy and peace in Jerusalem. There was joy and peace in Jerusalem. So when there was a persecution also, when they were flogged also, when they were put in the prison also, he would write, there was peace, there was joy in Jerusalem. Can it be possible? You undergo every struggles in your life, still experience peace? If you really understand what Christ called you, you will experience. That peace will remain with you. You understand? That joy will remain with you. The joy, do not mistake with the happiness. Okay, happiness and joy are two different things. Happiness is something that you feel in your heart. When you receive something, what you feel inside of your heart is what happiness is. For example, you get a very good mark for your exams. You feel very happy. Or you are promoted to somewhere. You feel happy. Or somebody speaks good about you. You feel happy. They all remain in your heart. But then joy is something that goes a little more deeper. It is a feeling, it is something that is connected to your soul. And that's a gift of God. God fills you with this. Okay. So I conclude with this. What I wanted at the end to conclude and say is, following Christ is to be something, a joyful movement. Pope Francis so beautifully, when he spoke recently, he would speak about this. Following Christ is not a part-time option, he would say. He would say, it is God's choice, and you say yes to it. And then he would say, secondly, he would say, it cannot be done with a lot of sadness. It has to be done with a lot of joy. I conclude with that small video. If I find, I'll show you this video. So with this, I conclude this session. Let me see if I can find this.
During his speech, the Pope was very direct. He reminded the group that following God's call is not a temporary temporary or part-time option. This despite the temptations of the modern-day world.
Diventare sacerdote, religioso, religiosa, non è primariamente una scelta nostra. Io non mi fido di quel seminarista, di quella novizia che dice io ho scelto questa strada. Non mi piace. Non va. Ma è la risposta a una chiamata
Pope Francis met Pope Francis met with thousands of seminarians and novices who came to Rome for a 4-day event on the Year of Faith. During his speech, the Pope was very direct. He reminded the group that following God's call is not a temporary or part-time option. This despite the temptations of the modern-day world.
diventare sacerdote, religioso, religiosa, non è primariamente una scelta nostra. Io non mi fido di quel seminarista, di quella novizia che dice io ho scelto.
Pope Francis met with thousands of seminarians and novices who came to Rome for a 4-day event on the Year of Faith. During his speech, the Pope was very direct. He reminded the group that following God's call is not a temporary or part-time option. This despite the temptations of the modern-day world.
Diventare sacerdote, religioso, religiosa, non è primariamente una scelta nostra. Io non mi fido di quel seminarista, di quella novizia che dice io ho scelto questa strada. Non mi piace quello. Non va. Ma è la risposta a una chiamata e ad una chiamata di amore.
Paul, and my response is a response of love that we were talking about.
Sento qualcosa dentro che mi inquieta. E io
Something you feel inside unsettling. So that's what I said the other day, disturbance. Something that you feel unsettled inside of you. And then you respond to it, yes.
rispondo di sì.
More than 6,000 seminarians and novices took part in the gathering. The Pope also reminded them that following God's path isn't about material riches, but inner graces.
Quando tu trovi un seminarista, un prete, una suora, una novizia, una faccia lunga, triste, che sembra che alla sua vita l'hanno buttato una copertina ben bagnata, di queste copertine pesanti, boom, ma ti tira giù, ma qualcosa non va.
That's what I wanted to say also. A religious, a priest with a long face, he says it doesn't work. Something is wrong there.
Ma per favore, mai suore, mai preti con la faccia di peperoncino in aceto. Mai. La gioia che viene di Gesù.
There will be challenging times ahead, said the Pope, but it's then that they must look deep inside and transmit the joy that comes with proclaiming the gospel. He also told them they shouldn't give in to a culture of gossip. And even the Pope said there was a time when he gave in to it.
Scusatemi, ma è comune. Le gelosie, delle invidie, parlare male dell'altro. Non solo parlare male dei superiori, questo è un classico, no, parlare male dell'altro. Io voglio dire che questo è tanto comune, tanto comune. Anche io sono caduto in quello, Io sì, tante volte l'ho fatto, tante volte. E mi vergogno di questo. Non sta bene farlo.